How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the moves that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have made so far in the 2023 CFL offseason. So for Winnipeg, coming off the third straight Grey Cup appearance in a row, unfortunately the three-peat bid falls just short, losing to Toronto in heartbreaking fashion in last year's Grey Cup. But they're looking to get back there again for a fourth straight year, and let's take a look at the moves they've done to do so. So first, I want to go over some of their re-signings from this offseason, starting with left tackle Stanley Bryant. In my opinion, one of the best players in all of the CFL. I would have him right up there in the top five, one of the best players, future Hall of Famer, been the best offensive lineman in this league year in, year out, and I'm just really excited to see him back with Winnipeg, such an essential part of this team. They also bring back his teammate in right tackle Jamarcus Hardrick, probably the best right tackle in the CFL, brings a lot from a run blocking perspective. I thought he took a little bit of a step back last year, but I still think he is still an elite level player and one of the best offensive linemen in the league. So you retain two real key pieces of that offensive line in Winnipeg. You also bring back Jackson Jeffcoat, an excellent defensive end. Had a down season last year production-wise compared to the previous couple of years, but I still think he is capable of being a 10-plus sack guy in this league and be a consistent force at that edge spot opposite Willie Jefferson. And then they also bring back linebacker Kyrie Wilson, very underrated linebacker, kind of is overshadowed by playing next to Adam Bighill, who's one of the best players in the entire league. But Kyrie Wilson, just an incredible player. Just so important to bring him back. I thought he's just such a great compliment with Bighill, and I think it was just a great move to bring him back. And then they also bring back kick returner Janarian Grant, just one of the best players at what he does in the CFL. Had some dynamic returns last year. I believe it was a game against BC that he really, had a big kick return and was able to really swing the momentum in that game. That was the first meeting that they played last year. So I think Grant was a great re-signing for Winnipeg as well. And then the final re-signing I want to talk about here is wide receiver Rasheed Bailey. Just a really good depth receiver in this offense. Probably the third or fourth target with a loaded receiver room coming up this year with obviously Schoen and Dembski and another guy we're going to talk about in a second. But I think Bailey had a good season last year. He's just a good veteran guy to keep on this team. And I think Winnipeg overall did a very good job retaining a lot of their key talent set to hit the free agent market. Now let's turn over to the whiteboard to talk about their additions here, starting with wide receiver Kenny Lawler, who is really the only notable player they brought in externally from other CFL teams last season. And he played with Edmonton last year, was the key part of that offense. Winnipeg fans are very familiar with Lawler, obviously. Spent his first couple of years of his CFL career in Winnipeg, had the big 2021 season, and then cashed in with Edmonton last year. After 1 year away from Winnipeg, decides to come back, and I think he's going to fit in seamlessly back with the team. Going to be a three-headed monster with him, Dembski, and Dalton Schoen, and Bailey as the fourth receiver. What a loaded receiver room. I'd put that up against any receiver room in the CFL right now, and I think even though they only make one addition here, I think it's just a big home run for Winnipeg, and I think is really could be a ceiling raiser for this offense. And I think last year, maybe if they had Lawler, that would have given them enough firepower to outlast the Argonauts in that Grey Cup. But very excited to see Lawler back with Winnipeg. Now, despite retaining most of their key pieces this offseason, they did lose some talent in free agency, starting with offensive lineman Michael Couture. They've had some interior guys on that offensive line start to emerge the last couple of years that allowed them to let go of Couture, but I thought Couture is an excellent player, one of the best interior linemen in the league, and that's what I've seen when I've seen him on film, and he ends up going back home to BC where he played at Simon Fraser University. So happy for him. It made sense for that move for the Lions, but they lose a good player here in Couture, Winnipeg that is, and I want to see how his absence is felt on the O-line this coming season. They also lose defensive tackle Casey Sales to the Hamilton Tiger Cats, an ascending player that was already a pretty productive player from that defensive tackle position last year, can rush the passer. It helps having Jeffcoat and Jefferson on the outside, but I thought that Sales was a guy that showed a lot of improvement the last couple of years in the CFL, and I wish him luck in Hamilton. I think Winnipeg, because of the surrounding pieces, they could still plug in a guy there and potentially still have similar productions to what Sales had this past couple of years, but I think it's worth noting the loss nonetheless. They also lose wide receiver Greg Ellingson, one of the more consistent receivers in the CFL. And he battled some injuries last year and the previous couple of years, which is worth noting, and probably why they end up letting him walk out the door here. He goes to Montreal. I thought that, Ellingson was one of the better receivers in the league last year when he was on the field, but again, the health concerns probably why the decision was made to let him go. So with the addition of Lawler, I think that it doesn't really matter that they lose Ellingson in this case, but I think Ellingson is still a good player, and it hurts to lose good players regardless. They also lose defensive lineman Keon Adams, who's a rotational guy the past couple of years with Saskatchewan and Winnipeg. I don't think he's signed with the team yet, but I'm interested to see if he lands somewhere. He was a guy that had a little bit of hype, especially during his brief time in Saskatchewan, so we'll see if he lands with the team, but I don't think he's going to be back with Winnipeg, which is why I have him on the board here. They also lose defensive backs Mercy Maston and Nick Taylor, two veterans there that, especially Taylor, I thought was a pretty big part of that defensive back room. I think that he may be favoring retirement. If I'm not mistaken, he's a little bit up there in age and has been in the CFL for a while. So I think that could be what ends up happening with Taylor. Maston, I think he's had some injuries the past couple of seasons. I think that probably led to the decision to not offer him a contract extension or want him back. So very interested to see how that defensive back room looks next year. Still have talented players like Winston Rose and Dietrich Nichols and Brandon Alexander, another year removed from that injury. So I think that defensive back room will be fine, but those are two notable losses nonetheless. And then the final guy they lose here is Dakota Prukop to the USFL, a quarterback. Just an interesting quarterback because he's quite the athlete, but hasn't really gotten the chance to be, a guy that can start games in the CFL so far in his career. So I think that's why he takes the career decision to go down to the USFL. I think he wrote a column on 3 Down Nation. You should go check that out. I think that he, did a good job explaining himself there. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's too big of a loss for Winnipeg to have Drew Brown on the roster. I think he's shown a little bit of promise when he's been on the field. So I think he's a solid number 2. I forget who they have as their number 3 guy. We'll talk about that more around roster review time. But at the end of the day, I think that they do lose some pieces here. But at the end of the day, I think they retained their core guys, and they're going to have to rely on, hitting the rest and filling all the rest of the holes with rookie free agents and Canadian draft picks. So I'm excited to see what Winnipeg does this coming season. Does the addition of Lawler really put them over the top to be right back into that Grey Cup for the 4th straight year and win it for the 3rd time in 4 years? I'm really excited. Be sure to let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. And with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.